So, hello and welcome to my next chess video. This time I show you the game between Deep Fritz 14 versus Wasp 2.0. And I let them play the Berlin defense with Queen e2, which arises after these moves I just show you. Bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez, and now knight f6, the Berlin, and Queen e2. So let's see what Wasp comes up with here. Main moves up bishop here, or bishop there, or bishop there. Let's say bishop c4. Then you could go takes. But this is very risky. This is very risky because of queen here. Knight goes back, and now knight here, followed by castles. I don't know. Well, anyway, takes. Knight here and knight takes there is kind of better for black, I think. So this is possible. But we have to move a6 now. And now bishop takes c6 most probably. Pawn takes c6 and knight takes here. Followed up with queen here. Attacking the knight and also the e4 pawn. So this still not possible. Pawn takes. And not just castle. And now bishop c5. Or even bishop g4 maybe as an idea after h6, h5. You cannot take here. Oh, you could take here actually, because the knight is in the way, so bishop g4 isn't that great because of h6. Well, you can go back here. And now maybe something like c3 to try and go d4. With rook to d8 maybe, so let's say this one. Rook d8. Castles. g4, bishop here, and d5 takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, so bishop has to go somewhere else. Let's say bishop here, then even e5, knight d5, knight c3, and the position should be playable. Maybe f5 to open things up, knight here, but then the knight jumps into e5. With queen here, check in mind maybe. But the bishop can always drop back. So this is not really a problem. And white's kingside is pretty open. But you could go maybe f4 followed by f5 or g5. This is a double-edged position. So let's see. So knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, and followed up with queen f6. So let's try e6. Queen f6 is met with knight here. But then queen here followed up with c5, also threatening to take there. I don't like white's position here, I'm honest. So g4 probably not. So then not this plan with c6. Well, you could go c6 and then d6. Maybe trying to go bishop here, knight there, and rooks in the center. So let's try this. Castles. Bishop here. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Now you could go c5, d4 maybe. At some point even, when the rook lands there. Could start with something like b4 maybe in the future. But let's see what black does here. Maybe create some Luft for the king. Now b4. h4. a4, no, a4, I don't like this b4 idea. You could go knight here, trying to go there to add more support to this d4 break. Let's see, rook there, rook there. And then now maybe some expansion on the queen side. It's here, this to prevent any d4, rook there, renewing the idea. But I don't know, maybe there is something better. Knight takes e5 is what Fritz is calculating in that position, but I really don't like knight takes e5 in that position because of queen d4. The knight has to go back to f3, then queen takes e4 followed by queen takes e4 and knight takes e4, and I don't see the advantage for white in that position, so I wouldn't go for that, but maybe it's one of the better choices. You could castle here, bishop here, preventing any rook there, but then you can go d4, kicking the bishop, and go rook e1 next. So, but bishop here, rook there, f5, e4, d3 traps the knight. So you kind of have to do something against this. So bishop e7, the only move, knight here, and then d4. Maybe you get something here. I don't know. You cannot castle as black, but you can play the bishop there to be able to castle next move. c4, I don't know, b3 to try and go c4 next. Also to try and fiancare to the bishop. So let's say castles, c4, rook to the open files. Bishop here, the other rook also to the open file. And knight c3. Followed up with this, probably that. Bishop drops all the way back. Followed up with c6, so rook there. c6 maybe takes. Rook takes and pawn takes, and this position should be slightly better for white, adding some pressure to this pawn over there. But let's see what we get. Fritz's line is, let's go back here. Knight takes e5, queen d4, knight f3, queen takes e4, queen takes e4, knight takes e4, castles, followed up with knight c5. Fritz is following up it with knight c5, followed up with rook e1 check, and knight to e6, blocking with a knight. But what to do with that bishop, that's the question. Maybe you get something here as white. But let's see, both evaluations. We have both are equalizing it. So this Berlin defense is really quite solid for black. See, Wasp gives a different line here. I like Wasp 2.0's line more. Takes with the move d3 and bishop to d6 here. Now the pawn was really attacked, defending it with the bishop. d3, knight to d2, and b5. This is Wasp's line. Knight d2, b3. Now followed up with castling. h3, c5, and bishop c1, d2. This would be more interesting with castles on opposite sides, probably, but we have the move knight takes. We have the move a6, followed up with knight takes e5. This is probably the continuation we will get with an even Steven position. Let's see what Wasp thinks now. Yeah, Wasp also thinks it's even. Also the other line would be even with queen d4, knight f3, queen takes, knight takes castles, knight f6. So Wasp gives the line after this exchange, castles, knight f6, rook e1 and bishop e6. This is the line Wasp gives. Maybe trying to castle queenside, and we would have an interesting game. Maybe still some attacks going on even without the queens. But okay, queen d4, knight f3 of course has to be played. What to do here? Probably d4, castles, c3, c5, bishop here, takes, c4, bishop back, now bishop e7, we'll go followed up with knight here to here, most probably putting the rook on the open files. Also possible is just to play the knight here. After this, also to play the knight here. The bishop pair versus the knight pair should be better for black a little bit. So Wasp 2.0 is playing a good game there. But okay, Fritz also didn't play the most aggressive moves, I have to say. Let's see, castles, knight c5, rook here, knight e6, knight e6, probably going on with d4, b6, trying to go c4 also, c4 here, c4, this will trap the knight, so this is threatening to trap the knight actually. So bishop e7, this one takes a knight here. Black has got some issues with the king, but it has the bishop pair, so probably f6, attack the king here on f7, and this should be fine. No, not this of course, probably bishop here to attack the pawn right there. Rook here defending. Rook here. Bishop e6, pawn there, takes, attacking this one. And if you push, then this comes with a double attack. So you cannot push. So probably rook here to defend. But then you can maybe double on the d file, and I don't know. Black's position looks a little bit shaky here, so probably there are better moves. But okay, probably b6 is not correct. Probably bishop here immediately, followed up with c4 and castling. And now you don't want to play c5, but knight c3 maybe, and white got a center here, but we have the move knight f6 here instead. After all that, we have the move, oh, we don't have the move knight f6, The knight will take the queen, of course, yet. So we are currently castles, knight c5, rook here, bishop e7, c4, castles, and knight c3. This is probably the line I would go for here. Maybe c5. No, nevertheless, but then you allow this. Probably the knight goes back with c6 in mind. Bishop f4, c6. Pawn here, attacking the bishop moves. And now I don't want to do this. Yeah, but it's probably the only choice. Takes, knight here attacking the bishop here. And now d7 is threatened. Probably d7 immediately. Takes, and now don't take the bishop, but queen. Takes, and this is checkmate. So you cannot take the queen after all. So that's why you have to take the pawn. Rook takes, knight takes, and probably rook here even. But then you could challenge, because you have no luft for the king. But this is an interesting idea. Bishop takes d7 forced. Takes, rook here. Probably rook takes there is better. Yeah, but this position is even Steven. Probably a little bit better for white, but so okay, knight here. Probably have to go back with the bishop. And now bishop to d7. Knight here, attacking the bishop. Bishop cannot move back, otherwise it's trapped, so you have to defend it. And now knight takes, rook takes, and you have a bishop versus a knight. And this pawn is very strong here. But how to... Probably f4 here in that position. Rook here, f5, knight goes back. Now the pawn is nicely covering the knight. Bishop, rook here. But then you can just take. Rook takes, king here. But now you have no chance of defending against this queening. If rook there, then just king there, and there is nothing to do. Probably taking, and now you bring a queen into the game, and it's all over. Bishop here is coming, and this would pin the knight. So there are a couple of tricks here. Takes, rook takes, rook here. You cannot even go back here because the bishop is covering that square, so you can just queen the pawn. So probably this is a good line here. So you have to play f5 here. After f4 you cannot do this. You have to play f5 as black. And now this f4 is a little bit silly, but you can play bishop there. Trying to go in here. g4 takes, rook there, bishop pawn here, rook takes, bishop takes, rook takes, and you're a full rook up. And if you take here, it doesn't matter with what, then again you're a rook up. So this you cannot take, you have to take there. And now the bishop is coming in here, and or not, you just take it, the rook now takes, and you take the knight, and you're again a rook up. So it's actually not so easy for black here to fully equalize. The c5 is also not good. But let's see what black comes up with here. Knight e6, most probably. Still knight e6, followed up with knight c3. Going for development first, but let's see. Okay, Fritz line is to go knight c3 here. And after bishop e7, to go d4, castles, bishop f4, going after the c7 pawn, bishop e7, b4, takes, I don't know. Oh, you cannot take here, of course, because the knight is covering it. So bishop f4, bishop b4. Interesting kind of thing. I'll smoke a cigarette and I will be back in a second. We have moves here. We have this bishop e7, d4 and f6 now. Knight e4 is what Fritz is calculating as a good move. Probably going here after the pinned knight. Let's see both evaluations. Yeah, again, both are equalizing. Knight e4, bishop e7. Now probably the king will tuck on f7. This is probably good square for the king in this game. Good safe spot. Here, c4. Most probably, at least I will go c4. Or c3 even. Bishop e7. Knight e4, bishop e7. Also castling queenside is an option. Also castling kingside, this position is just equal, if you ask me, but let's see what white can get out of this. Yeah, we have now knight e4 and king f7. Bishop e3, rook e8. This is what Fritz is calculating. Or sorry, rook d8, d1, rook e8, yes. Rook e8, rook a1. You have no discoveries with the knight, which would win this knight. So you'd have to play something with the bishop. Probably bishop here. But then knight takes, pawn takes, and then c4. And I quite like white in that position. Not that white is much better here, but white is at least somewhat better. We have this bishop e3 move by Fritz. Now let's see what Wasp is doing. Wasp is calculating the move h6 now. Instead of rook e8, h6. Yeah, this is a little weird. Rook a1. And knight e6, g5. But then you just take. This pawn takes. Okay, you opened up the rook's file. It's good c4. And I don't know. You don't want to push c5 too early, because you can just push that pawn even to here. But then you might lose it after this and pawn here. Well, you could go rook there, bishop here, rook there, but then king here, and you kind of lose the pawn. So, although you could push it again, but then the king goes back, and now you really lose it. So, this is not what the doctor ordered. Knight g5, this idea is pretty good. Also, the king can go to g6 now, even one step further into the center in this endgame, kind of endgame. So we're currently in that position here. And now rook a8 followed by c3. Now this pawn structure is pretty good here, controlling this bishop a little bit. c3, b6. Or knight g5 here. Still knight g5. After this rook b1, knight g5, knight fd2. Don't want to take this. Knight g5 we have. Knight fd2. And bishop f5, attacking this knight even more. Bishop f5. Knight g5, knight takes, no, knight here we have, and now rook e8, f3, let's see both evaluations right around here. Both engines thinks that it's equal, probably slightly better for black. Yeah, I also like black's position here. I have to say, this weird play from Wasp is quite good actually. Wasp 2.0, right now there is the version Wasp 3.0 on the market. Well, it's free actually, but okay. I'll make a short break and be back in a second. So we have a couple of moves here. We have the move rook here, and not knight takes. Rook here, bishop there, and knight takes a knight here. Oh, we don't have f3. Rook here, knight there, bishop there, and now the move calculated is knight here and knight e6 back. This is Fritz's line. So let's see both evaluations right around here. I'm curious. Black should be slightly better, has no problems here. c4, but I don't see that black is better there. But bishop c8, knight c4, knight e6. This is what Fritz is calculating now. Let's see, knight e6, knight takes, of course, rook takes. Now maybe a3 to try and go b4 here. Bishop has to develop somewhere, probably bishop here. b4, rook there, followed up with bishop here or bishop there even. But let's see, b4, takes, pawn here, c3, and black is up a pawn, so this doesn't work quite yet. So this expansion on the queen side, maybe d5 takes, and the rook goes all the way back. Let's see, b3 is coming. This is an isolated pawn, so black should be a little bit better. Now Fritz changes its mind to a3 instead of this bishop move. This pawn move to c4, a3, b6, knight b3, bishop f5, bishop f5 going after that pawn here, bishop f5, and now c4, followed up with knight g5 to e4, and black should be fine here. So, but it's Wasp's move. Could also go bishop e7 or rook e to d8 is what he is calculating. This is slightly weird, slightly odd to going again with the rook. But let's see what he comes up with. And let's see if Deep Fritz strangles him to death after all. I wouldn't go rook e to d8. But let's see what's the idea. Fritz's position is kind of good. Two rooks in the center. This knight can always jump here or go to f3. Has very good prospects here. Bishop f5 is also an option. Followed up with c3, pawn here, knight there. Okay, we have to move b3 here. So knight goes back to b3, of course, and now bishop f5, going after this pawn, c4. Let's see if we really get this kind of stuff, and bishop e6. Well, then you could go after the bishop again, because the knight is covering this pawn, also the bishop. Bishop has to go back. Yeah, black's position is fine, but he is not that good developed. So let's say there to go here with the bishop, probably on this diagonal. I don't know. The bishop can always go back to this diagonal. This should be fine. There are a lot of moves which are fine. Bishop b3, bishop f5. So now what he's calculating. Or a5 followed up with a4. This is also an option, a5 followed up with a4 to kick the knight back. So let's say a4. Now you could go there with the bishop. Don't know, bishop here, a5. Let's go c4. We have to move a5 on the board. c4, pawn here. Knight in the corner, maybe, to go there. Jump in here. Or knight to there, to there, to there, maybe. Which route is better? Probably this. Now bishop f5, h4, knight here, d5. Not this. Takes. Takes. Knight here. Bishop takes. Pawn takes. Knight here. Rook takes. Rook takes. Bishop there. And that can still not approach. Still everything covered, and even if it's going there, then this square is also covered. So black with the bishop pair should be somewhat better. But okay, we could have the move a4 or bishop f5 immediately. This line I like for black. Yeah, probably to here, to then go to there. Rook here, rook there, rook takes, knight takes. The knight can jump back. It shouldn't be that bad for white, but black is somewhat better here in this endgame. But okay, we don't have the move a4. We have the move bishop f5 instead. Bishop f5, d5 now. Followed up with c5. And bishop f4. Bishop d6. Bishop takes d6. Pawn takes d6. c7 takes d6. What? c5. c5, bishop f4, bishop d6, bishop takes, c takes, h4. Kicking the knight. So the knight has to go to h2, to h7. Now f3, maybe trying to kick the bishop, even trying to even kick the bishop. Let's see both evaluations. Yeah, well, black should be somewhat better. Also the knight could come here, but there is always this counterplay with a4 and b5. So what about that position here? We have on the left side here the analysis position. Let's try and do something here with black. Let's say black goes in the center. Then we could have g5. Bishop goes all the way back. h4 goes there. Knight here. King goes there, attacking this pawn. King here, not allowing the king to approach. Bishop there, attacking this pawn. Pawn here, and maybe b5 here. Is black's king in danger? I don't see it. And b5, bishop takes. And now maybe the bishop reroutes here to add some pressure to this poor little d5 pawn, this isolated one. So this could be an option for black, going for something like this. But let's see, we are currently in that position here, attacking on c7. So bishop d6 most probably. Okay, it's parking with the bishop pair, but it's now strengthening black's pawns. And here we see that these pawns are on light squares, so they are a target for that bishop right here, and all black pawns are on dark squares, so they are not hemming in the bishop. So the bishop can go anywhere on the board. So let's see. Bishop takes, c takes. Wasp is not that bad actually, if it's holding to Fritz 14. Bishop here, bishop takes. Probably the opening I gave them is also not the greatest of all openings. But let's see, there are chances. Bishop takes, c takes of course. And now f4 is also possible for kicking the knight. Knight could go there though. Bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes. Bishop takes, rook there, and bishop here would then you have to go back, and then the rook takes the open phalanx. Black is better here, so you cannot take the knight. But what to play? Black is really better here in that position. C takes d6, f4, knight e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. Even immediately I would take with the rook. Rook takes, and now something like this. Oh, you don't have to go there, or you could go there and then play your knight here to defend the pawn, but then maybe b6 takes, and we are in that position where black can try for something here, but it's hard to push for victory there. f4, knight e4 is what both engines are giving. Let's see, it should be around equal, this position, though we have to move f4 on the board. h4 was also an option. f4, let's see both evaluations. Yeah, a little bit better for black. Also I see that this should be a little bit better for black, but it should be even. Knight e4, knight h7 is now what Wasp thinks is a good move, but knight h7 looks really bad. The knight hops in here. Okay, bishop there is then the threat, so the knight cannot move. This knight is really poorly placed. This bishop is a monster on that diagonal. But knight h7 doesn't look right just. But okay, knight h7. We have on the board king f2 now by Fritz, improving the king's position. Still around equal. King f2, bishop here, rook there, takes, rook here, takes, knight here most probably, but this bishop is really a monster. This bishop is really a monster. It's controlling both knights actually, with conjunction with the pawns. But what is this knight doing? Knight here to here, or knight here to there, to here, to here, to here, but this square is also covered, so the knight might go to here. Well, it's the only square he can go to. Followed up with knight here, but let's say this one to preempt this. Knight here, and I will call it a draw. Because how to push here for a win? Probably h4 here. But then the knight could go there, could jump in here, could go there. And this is a beautiful square for the knight. So let's say you go here. To prevent this, bishop there. What to do with the knights? Let's say knight here. Knight there. Bishop, king here. Oh, king cannot go there. Let's say you push the knight. Takes, knight here takes, king there, and white is winning. So, oh, we have moves. We have moves here. We don't have this kind of exchange. The rook's still standing there. And we had the move g5. Pawn takes g5, and now the king didn't go to f2. We have f4. Knight going to h7. h3 we had, and g5. And now we had this takes. H takes g5. Not knight takes g5. Okay, keeping the pawn structure solid. Fair enough. H takes g5 and knight b3 c1. Now calculated by Deep Fritz. Let's see. Knight c1, and again both evaluations I want to see. Here black should be somewhat better. But if black can win this is a different question. I would have gone for other lines here as Fritz for more aggressive ones in the opening. But let's see about this endgame here. Let's go bishop c. What? Oh, bishop c2. Rook takes. Not rook here. Rook takes, of course. And rook here. Okay, black took the e-file, and black's king is more safe. Probably black can infiltrate there. Attacking the knight, so the knight moves. Let's say rook takes e8 and rook df1. Followed up with f5. This is the plan. From Wasp 2.0, f5. Probably going up with the king, or make some space for the knight and going here with the king. So those two squares. The knight could jump in here also. Yeah, white's position is pretty passive. So black has really some good winning chances here. And Fritz is also down on 32 seconds. But he will get some additional time. After black makes a move here, rook takes e8 is forced. And yeah, this should be not winning for black, but at least better for black. f5, note that this pawn is protected by the bishop, so you cannot take it with the rook. And now rook df1, the only square for the rook. This is also forced. And now they are both in blitz mode. They have to blitz out this position. f5. making room for the knight, also making room for the king. f5, knight c1, a2, knight c1, a2. So this line continues going into there. And if rook here, then you can just offer a rook exchange. And how is this endgame? The knight will jump in here, has a good square over there. I don't see how black can win this. So keeping the rooks on the board, because white's rook is pretty passive. Knight a2. Also another option is to go there with the king. I will go king f2 to challenge black's rook on the e file. This is what I would do, but we have to move knight a2. After f5 we have to move knight a2. Going in here, this is also a nice spot. Knight goes there, probably to here, to here. This is the route for the knight. Or to here, to here. This is also possible, but the knight can always go to f3. But then g4 kicks the knight away, and this spot for the knight is really great. So knight here, now maneuvering starts. Knight to c3 most probably. And then the knight will go to g6. Let's see, has both options available. Knight here, g5 takes, knight goes back, and knight goes here. And slowly but surely, oh, this is check, so the king has to move. So slowly but surely black makes some progress at least. Let's see if black can win this. Knight g6. We have knight b5 going after this d6 pawn. No, we don't have this. We have this rook f3 move. Now king f6. g3. Taking away the square for the knight. Also preparing some king here. Currently the knight is defending this square, so there is no infiltration. And if the rook gives a check, then the king just goes there, and there is nothing happening. Here all the squares are covered, so the rook would have to go back, and we would have a repetition. So we don't have this. We have the move g5 and king here. White is on the defensive, but let's see how much time. Minus 0.74 and minus 0.54. So Deep Fritz 14 is really under pressure here. G takes f4. What was the move? King back to g7. G takes f4. G takes f4. And king f1. Followed up with king f6. Knight b5. King e7 to defend the pawn. Yeah, Fritz is really under pressure here. Let's see. Yeah, both engines now thinks that black is winning. we have this move king here, king there, bishop there, king there, rook e1 check is calculated, followed up with king f2 attacking the rook, rook here, king there, rook here, king there. Oh, we don't have this. We have a different move. We have the rook coming in here. Rook takes, king takes f1, but what about this pawn? Loss. Bishop takes h3. Check. King here. Knight going in there, creating a wall. And also now the king can approach. So let's see, but you can get counterplay with this knight to here attacking this pawn, and now then you have a passed pawn or yourself. King f2, bishop to d7. Okay, this bishop to d7 is a great move. Bishop to d7, preventing any knight to b5 moves. King f1, knight h4, preparing to push and also to bring the king into the center. Let's see both evaluations, but I think it's lost for white. Yeah, both engines agree that this is lost for white. Slowly but surely improving the position of your pieces. Let's see how you win this. Knight d4, what's the idea? Probably going in here or going in there. Add some pressure to this pawn, or going in here, which would be a nice spot for the knight. Okay, we have knight here check. King e5. Knight here, knight there. This is the current board position. King here, bishop there, preventing any knight check over there, which would win the pawn. So this bishop is really a great piece. And what next? a4, trying to lure the bishop away from this square. Is this mate? No. Knight takes here, and now you have a passed pawn of your own. But okay, now it's going fast and it's going downhill for Deep Fritz 14. Let's see. This is probably winning. Now I want to see something here. Let's see, Deep Fritz 14. Okay, Deep Fritz 14 has a elo of 3144, and let's see Wasp 2.0 3061. So yeah, you're currently in that position, which is lost for white. No, King E1 most probably, or King G2. King approaches. No, you now have to capture. Knight takes, and let's see how this will fare. A knight up for Wasp 2.0 with black. Knight here, gobbling up the pawns on the queen side, and now Fritz resigned the game. Okay, very nice endgame here. Wasp played an interesting game there. I have a couple of questions to Wasp and to the theory book. So this is all according to theory. Pawn takes. Now b3 is theory there. b3 followed up with bishop there, and queen there. Followed up with d3, castles, knight d2. Yeah, this looks at least better than the game continuation. Although black also gets something here. Okay, this was the question to the theory I had. So let's see. And let's see what this opening is. Berlin defense. Okay, the other question to the theory is, if instead of a6 there's this bishop c4, how does it continue? c3, queen here, d3, castles, and bishop g5. Yeah, this something like this I was also expecting from both engines. d5, bishop here, e5, c3, bishop goes back. Okay, this is interesting, but let's ask Wasp a couple of questions, because Wasp was the winner. Wasp 2.0 wins against Deep Fritz 14. Okay, that this is nothing for... This is equal. Okay, knight takes, queen takes, castles, knight c5. Rook here, knight e6. Knight here still around equal. Where did Fritz mess up this position? Bishop d3. Here this was not the greatest of all moves, king f2. But where was my question here was there check, why go back with the rook? Why not attack the rook with going there? Rook ec1, king e2, king e7, knight ce4, knight ce4, rook c2, that goes back to c3, and rook takes there. What about knight here? Rook h1 going after that pawn, okay. What is if you just ignore this? King f2, rook here, knight b5. What is if you go there immediately? Your variation, knight e5, attacking the rook. Where is the rook going? Cannot go there, cannot go there, cannot go there. Could go there. This is probably the best square for the rook. And then rook h1. Knight takes here. Knight to d3 check. What? A knight to d3 check. King g2. And rook to the d1. Knight f1. f3 check. To go there. Rook takes f1. Rook takes f1. King takes f1. Queen g3. Bishop g3. Okay, you cannot go up. You have to go either there or there. So no, you have to go there. It's your only square. Then f2 check. King h2 and queening. Okay, this is rather a long line, but okay, the game continuation is not better. And here Fritz resigned the game. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Ciao.